Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I'm your host, Žana. And today I am so happy to have my friends here. I have known Stephanie since a very, very long time. We share many similar experiences in life when it comes to being in a relationship that fundamentally did not fulfill us. And I'm so happy, Stephanie, that you're here and that you agreed to be my guest today. Um, and I wanted to tell you from a friend's perspective, I'm so, so, so proud of you. Like seeing you really shine right now and the way you live your life and all the things that we talked about many, many, many years ago when we were both in that realm of like, oh, this would be so great if this could be one day for you, this is now real reality. And I'm so excited to kind of like have a conversation about the before and after effect. So, first of all, hi,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. I know, thinking back to all those conversations on my porch, about
Yeah,
where we were and where we wanted to be. I'm still on the path, so I'm definitely
right.
not like at any final destination, but yeah,
Yeah.
feels like years and years ago. Really hasn't been that long, but
I
yeah.
know. And when you first told me that, I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. And then what really struck me in our last conversation when you told me, when a relationship all of a sudden doesn't become any more a problem in your life, and you said the relationship aspect is actually the least of my
Yeah,
problems right now.
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, it literally gave me goosebumps because not only am I so happy for you, but obviously that's still a path that I'm on my way to
yeah,
experience, hopefully one day.
yeah,
And so you in that aspect is kind of like an inspiration for me because it's like, oh wow, amazing. Because I've known through our personal conversations how challenging really it was for you at times.
hmm,
But I wanted to really dive in today in that aspect of when we talk about what is it really when we are finding ourselves in a relationship with somebody that obviously we entered for a reason and we felt love and we felt comfortable. But when would you say certain things turned for you where you felt all of a sudden that something is off? Like you either felt like you needed to be taking care of that person, and taking care could be in any way, right? It could be emotionally, mentally, financially, it could be in any kind of matter.
yeah,
But I'm so curious to find out when did that turning point for you had happened? Was it a long time into the relationship or was it at the beginning or when
yeah.
when did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so much of looking back at my, previous few relationships, I mean, I was just a different person in a lot of ways. Having grown up quite a bit, like literally and figuratively over the last 10, 15 years. I think that had a lot to do with it. I was, I think, 25 at the time, relationship, in question, I guess.
Mhm.
And I was like in college, and I just had a very different mindset about my life than I do now, and
Mhm.
what mattered. And like I always kind of knew out here like what I wanted. Um, but what I didn't necessarily match up to that, right? All the time. Um, and so it was very short-sighted thinking. I'm a relationship person. I am like a long-termer. I don't date a lot. Every relationship I've had has been a long-term one. So I was actually coming out of, uh, it was probably 3 years or so, a very abusive, toxic relationship with someone who was addicted to drugs that I really didn't even know at the time. And so entering into a new relationship with this person was kind of just like he was just very different. And so that was kind of all I really needed. I mean, obviously there are other things, but I
Right.
just wanted to have fun. I wasn't like looking at anything seriously. It just wasn't controlling. It wasn't, you know, um, drama in the same way, right?
Right.
But it obviously was still not like it was still work, right? It wasn't like equally matched in that sense. And I learned that years and years through the relationship that it wasn't a great fit. Um,
Mhm.
but of course, as you know, over time, you fall in love with somebody. You come, even if you're not in love, right? You care about them, you love them, they
Right.
mean something to you. You care about their family. In this case, my partner had kids. I didn't we didn't see them very often, but they everybody mattered, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, and so I don't know. Even that, does that answer your question?
It totally does,
Okay.
because what was so resonating with me when you said that you came out of that really challenging, abusive, toxic relationship with the person that was drug addicted, and then now you
Yeah.
entered in this new relationship. What it sounds to me was basically that in that moment, all what mattered to you was not because you didn't feel like you needed more, but in that moment, all what mattered was just, if I can just be in a relationship that is not having this kind of drama, if I could
Yeah.
just be in a
It's not
relationship
that.
without that part of anybody
Right.
bringing that to my life, I can be happy. I can manage the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting when you said that, because I feel like when we say these things to ourselves, we don't really encounter long-term thinking or long-term
Right.
needs or long-term wants, because I remember myself telling myself, if I could just live with this person, all I wanted to do is
Yeah.
just live with him and live with his son and have a home life, and that's all I wanted. But really, I never bothered myself in thinking further, and that can be due to what you said, being young. Because I
Yeah.
mean, I think I was 24 myself when that relationship was happening,
Mm-hmm.
or just really not allowing yourself even to mentally asking for what you actually deserve. Because if that part could just not be a part of this new chapter, then I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And I found myself, when that really had happened, we finally lived together and we lived life. There were so many other details that I wish that I would have manifested
Mm-hmm.
or asked for or knew about myself, that this is really, that does matter too to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't take the time because I was so eager to be in a relationship. Because, like you said, you're a long termer, you prefer to be in a long term relationship. I'm the very same way.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, okay, on paper, this is great. Wonderful. Let's do that. Right. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, so I resonated with that a whole lot. But I feel like, or I want to know, why haven't we had those thoughts of like, okay, obviously, I don't want to be in a relationship that is, with somebody that is addicted to drugs, because that's very challenging to be around. But also, I don't want to be in a relationship where somebody ignores my emotional feelings, or
Yeah.
doesn't respect my boundaries, or doesn't respect me. Like, what is it that you think you and I miss? Was it really the age, or what was it?
I mean, I don't know. I guess, there wasn't a whole lot of um I I feel like I've always been pretty self-aware, even when I was a kid, but there wasn't a whole lot of awareness in general, like going into this. And I definitely wasn't thinking long term. In fact, you said you're looking at it on paper, like, yes, this is great if I could just live with him. I think
Hmm.
for me, the difference there was, on paper, nothing made sense about this relationship, like, at all. It was so, and I almost feel like that's a little bit what drew me to it, that it
Hmm.
was so, like, out there, um from the realm of what was typical for me, I guess.
Hmm.
And so there's that, but I think also, you know I was, I don't know, I mean, I got into this, it's not like he was a bad guy, he's not a bad guy, he's a great person, big heart. um it's just, we just weren't a fit. And uh I knew that kind of from the beginning, when I felt myself bending and flexing and doing things, not from the very beginning, but as I became, like, more, okay, serious about it. But
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of growing up to do too, because on the one hand, you could tell yourself, like, gosh, this doesn't feel right. I want to be treated differently. Or I wish my partner would get me a card for Valentine's Day or my birthday or whatever it is, do the dishes and share responsibility, like whatever it is. And they're not doing that. But, and then people like are motivated to change their situation if that's the case. In my case, I was just kind of stuck in that, like thinking maybe that I wouldn't find somebody that would, put in the same effort as me. Like
Yeah.
intellectually, it didn't make sense. It felt like that's not true,
Yeah.
but somewhere inside, it's more of a feeling I believed, right? And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that's at least part of what kind of kept me for a while, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like having that unrealistic expectation to yourself where you're like, well, that's kind of like unrealistic. Is
Yeah,
there really a person such
yeah,
like that out there? Is that really realistic? Because my thing was always I needed really always somebody that's a great communicator because
hmm.
I feel like
Good luck
myself, I'm
finding that.
right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but is there really a man out there that understands really how to properly communicate? Because saying yes and no and giving me 3-word letters in a text, that to me is not proper communication. That
Right.
to me is like, okay, or if I have not being able to have intellectual conversation, those are things that drove me. But what I also found is that the longer it would go on and the often I would bend, just like you said it too, that bending part and knowing deep down that you really don't want to do that. But if you don't, then either stuff, always how it felt to me. If I don't do that, what I have been doing, the whole card house will all of a sudden collapse.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I will be standing there not knowing, okay, what was this for? It almost felt like if I don't do it, then everything was for nothing, but not even
Absolutely.
considering, right, but not even considering that I actually did have the birthright to expect these things that were so yearning inside of me.
Yeah.
But one of my biggest problems was that I was not able to really verbally express what I felt. I had a really hard time. I was good in writing it on paper and presenting it on a card, but I was
Mhm.
not so good in actually really talking about my own emotions. So I brought that negativity to the relationship. And then he obviously didn't respond well to that because, in all honesty, who would,
Right. Sure.
And so that was a big problem too. But like just that fact of, is this even possible? Or am I telling myself a story here? Like, should I
Yeah,
be
like
okay with actually what's happening? Because he's good, he's not abusive, he doesn't hit me,
exactly.
there's no
He
really
has a
alcohol.
job,
Yeah,
the
and
basics.
right. But so, yeah, I just found it was so interesting. Because at one point I felt like our lives were somewhat parallel in certain aspects of the way our relationship, how we felt being in it. That
Yeah.
was so parallel because when we had conversations, I was like, man, yes, I feel you. Like I completely understand, but I couldn't really express myself because what would that really mean about my own self? So I wasn't
Mhm.
even ready to accept my own truth at that
But
moment
did you
either.
believe, like internally, you believed you deserved that stuff? You just didn't know how to voice it? Or were you not sure if you deserved it also?
I was definitely not sure if I deserved it. And
Okay.
I think the most part that I was definitely unclear about, am I realistic in my
Yeah,
expectations? Am
definitely.
I really realistic in the expectations that I have for a partner, how he should be towards me? Is that really realistic?
I
Because
think there's so much commentary in the like in society about that too. I think like I've run into this so many times. Like I remember dating myself here back when I was a teenager. I was going to a therapist and I remember here I was complaining about the relationship I was in then. And he was basically like, you have like a list of things you want. It's all this criteria. You basically get to pick three things that are like the most important things to you. And I'm like, three things. Like in my head, I'm thinking,
I have
the list
30
is
on the
like
list. What
50
are
of
you
them
talking
long.
about?
Like, what? I'm gonna be
Right.
miserable the rest of my life, you know,
Right.
three. And like, I mean, I think about that to the degree that's true. You're not going to literally get everything you want. You're going to have to bend and be
Right.
flexible, realistically. But I mean,
Right.
you match yourself up with a partner who has similar interests, goals, values, those kind of things. And then yeah, you pick maybe the few that are really, really important and you work on those things. And the other stuff is kind of like, you pick your battles, right? Um, but I think there's this, it's like this I don't know what you'd even call it, but this in society that like people settle all the time. There's a lot of people in relationships that
Yeah.
however you want to define it, for whatever
Right.
reason, financially, support, whatever. Um, some of them feel the way we felt, that we were stuck for whatever reason. Uh, and I think a lot of it starts with not feeling confident in, like, no, this is what I want and I'm going to find it. Like, and I'm going to go get it. It does exist, number one. Number two, I'm going to
Mhm.
go get it. And if it doesn't, I'm going to like create it or find somebody else
Mhm.
who feels the same and like create that together.
Yeah, it's almost like that saying that people say, they rather be single, but really internally at peace instead of being
Yeah,
in a relationship that really truly does not fulfill them. And I'm not saying that the relationship, the one I'm referring to, was not fulfilling at times. That's not what I'm
sure.
saying at
Of
all.
course.
But I'm saying, looking at it really from now, looking back, because it was a very long time. I mean, 15 years is an extreme long time.
Yeah,
There was the majority of those times was really, I honestly did not feel that none of my cups that really from human basis were really needed to be filled, because I have expectations on my friends too, you
sure.
know? And if those expectations are not being met, then I would have conversations. And then, like you said, pick your battle. But if this really something is not anymore today, at least in my life, that absolutely makes sense for me vibrationally and energetically, I would not even entertain that. But I feel
Right,
like back then, so many things from the outside played a bigger role than really what it was, what you really wanted. Because the self-confidence that I have today, I didn't have that back then at
right.
all.
Yeah,
And then when we now take certain things that are implemented from our parents or our grandparents or whoever raised us, and then the person that you're with is maybe trying to be manipulative and uses that against you, then you find yourself in that circle of like, okay, well, my mom always used to tell me that, and now this person is saying this to me, so it must be true. So
well
then you
done.
start to doubt yourself. You're like, well, maybe this is really me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And I was
yeah,
really at the point where, and listen, some people can call it gaslighting. In today's term, this could be somebody's gaslighting you. Did I know about the term? No, I had no idea what that even. I have no
yeah.
idea. But now looking at it, it does really seem very much like I was
Like,
gaslighted in
yeah,
certain things, and or I gaslit myself in tricking myself of like, okay, you know what? Like you said, I cared for the person. There was love. There was really that desire of wanting to make it work, but under what cause was always
right.
my question
Yeah,
when we would have arguments. I'm like, under what cause is this really now fair? Like, I'm not receiving what I'm really wanting or needing. And at one point, I felt like I didn't even have a chance other than to just, in a sense, give up and don't even ask for anything anymore. Just
yeah,
go with the go,
yeah.
being that grit of like, okay, now here we are, same day, same thing, same everything. And I just couldn't imagine my life like that anymore. Like it just got to a point mentally where I'm like, this cannot be my life for the rest of my life. It just
Yeah.
can't.
There's like, it's like the tipping point. Have you read that book or heard of it?
No, never, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think you'd probably really like it actually. It's been 100 years since I've read it, but Malcolm Gladwell wrote it, and I think there's a follow-up to it now. But essentially it describes that, what you just described, is getting to this point where, over time so many things build up. I mean, you see it everywhere with everything, but in this case, in relationship, you go through so many fights, you go through so even good experiences, right? So you could think of
Right.
it as like a cup being filled up with fights, and at some point it overflows, and every time you have a great experience, it's like you're letting a little bit of that water out and then releasing the tension. um, but over the years, when you're not being fulfilled and there's several other things that are not meeting your needs, and um, it gets to that tipping point when you do. And honestly, you'd mentioned something too, like you get to this point where you're like, I can't believe this is my life. I'm not happy. I think for me, what ultimately led me to shift my thinking away from I feel bad, like this person, wants to be with me. And honestly, like we could still be together today, there, I mean, we could. It was like if I just went along with it, probably.
Right.
Not to say that he had no like standards or anything, but I just think his expectations or even standards in a relationship and mine are very different, and that's okay. And so what shifted my thinking was realizing me like staying in this relationship is not fair to him actually either, because I'm not giving everything of myself. Like this isn't, and that sucks for him. Like that's taking away from him. So not only do I feel bad, but when I started to see it that way, I felt like it was almost a duty to now, like, here's what I'm thinking. Like I feel
Right.
bad for you now because I'm not in this 100% anymore like I used to be, like you
Right.
essentially are. You deserve somebody that, feels the same way.
Yeah.
That's
I think that statement goes both ways because we can only really show up for somebody the same way like we show up for ourselves. But I do feel like it starts with us too. With us it starts first because if I don't have self-love enough for myself and self-respect in really granting myself and allowing myself to have, even if they're unrealistic expectations, but even
yeah,
if I allow myself to just have those, then what is the point of my own life then? That's okay. Like to some people, this is unrealistic, but in my world, in my mind, in my
yeah,
vision, this is completely realistic. And
yeah,
so if it makes sense to me, then why not? But then to your point too, the courage to actually let somebody go
yeah,
because we love them, right? Regardless on
yeah,
what level love, right? But
exactly,
because there is really that level of, look, like I actually really do care for you. And this is why I feel like I need to let you go because I'm not giving you what you really need as the person. And you're not doing the very same for me either. But I feel like those kind of uncomfortable conversations are really what keeps people holding back. Like that's a really uncomfortable situation to really
yeah,
admit because it was the hardest thing to admit to myself, to just admit I'm not happy. That was
yeah,
the hardest thing for me, really, besides burying my mom. It
oh
was
yeah,
really challenging for me to be like, you know what, I'm really not happy. And then only the real work started, where I started to dive in. Why am I not unhappy? Because it wasn't just all that he didn't make me
yeah,
happy,
of course,
it was so many more, self-guided journeys on that took me like 2.5 years, and I'm still on it. But that is also something, like the guilt too, when you feel guilty actually, and you're
mm,
like, well, it feels bad for me having to tell you this or having to actually let you go. But I'm wondering, what was for you the call tipping point where you actually took yourself above guilt? Like you had guilt, you had yourself, you had your desires, but this guilt part was very strong. What was really
yeah,
where you like, you know what, I cannot be guilty anymore, I cannot feel this way anymore, like this is really my path and I'm a go for it, like was this just something that you gathered confidence over the years and you just let it linger, and then when you had enough spinach like Papa, you're like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
do it now.
pop Adam, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it was a very gradual process. I mean, because honestly, it took me a very long time, even after, we were essentially separated. I still felt guilty. I felt guilty even like a year after we completely separated and, lived separately.
Right.
And I don't feel, I feel like I've healed from that finally. Like, I don't feel that way anymore. We are able to communicate nowadays and there's no guilt. It feels just like he's a buddy kind of thing, which is
Right.
great. Um, I think a lot of it came from me just doing my own work. I kind of dove into like a self-improvement. I mean, I've struggled my whole life with mental health and depression and anxiety. So my dad died in 2018.
Right.
And that was a pivotal moment, I think, in a lot of ways. It was like the worst thing that I'd gone through in my life so far. Um, it was too soon, it was sudden, it was just not supposed to happen, right? And
Right.
so I mean, you can relate to that. That kind of stuff
Totally.
changes you completely. So you're like,
Completely.
well, shit, if I can lose this person, then I need to do what I need to do, kind of thing. So I had already been on like a journey of, getting in better shape. I was doing a lot of yoga. So I was definitely developing a more like spiritual side that I'd never really had in my life before. I
Hmm.
think just kind of all of those things and the realization that I'm holding him back from living his best life. And even if he
Right.
doesn't see it,
You
I
knew it.
have to be strong enough. I have to love him enough and respect him.
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it. I have to love him enough and respect him enough to let him go, even though he's arguing with me that he doesn't want something different, or he does, that we're not on the same page.
Right.
I have to trust
Yeah.
my own decision making. Um, like I
Yeah.
said, it's still hard even after the fact.
Yeah.
We lived together for
Yeah.
like 6, 8 months after that. So that was really difficult too. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I can respect that for sure. I can totally understand. And it's like that whole part of things really do change you, when those impacts really had happened in your life. Because when my mom died, I then became an orphan. I didn't have any parents at all anymore. And it really
yeah,
did force me into a space of like, okay, listen, you're really on your own. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and even though deep down I always believed in God my entire life, I know God is there, but fundamentally, really, I have to also find another way to him much closer where it's just me and him, because it was always, oh, I can call my mom, or oh, I can talk to my dad. And
yeah,
so that was completely removed from me. So really that gave me actually a chance of rebirthing myself into really the creation that I was meant to be from the beginning, and I don't think if that, because, when my mom died 8 months later, we separated.
jeez,
So,
yeah,
so, I don't think when any of those things did not happen the way they happened, I would have never been at the point where I am today, where I really needed to rely on myself and my own faith and figuring it somehow out emotionally and spiritually inside of me.
yeah,
And I think only through those tragical moments is really when that, you know, because it's kind of like a lotus flower, lotus flowers, they really grow in really dirty, muggy water. But
mhm,
when they are done, they're so beautiful. And it's so
yeah,
fascinating to me how such beautiful flower is actually coming from such dirty water, or like, and so that's kind of how I saw it for myself. I'm like, okay, this is really challenging, but this is my life and I only have this one. So I have to. And then I had my son, I had to find a way no matter what. But I feel
and
like,
I mean, I think it's a culmination of all of that, right?
you're
It's
right.
those moments where you're like slapped with reality, like, oh, okay, so I'm an orphan, or geez, this person, like I feel like a kid, like how my dad, what are you talking about? My dad's gone. Like what? You know? Um, but also like for you, I know just from having talked to you and spending time together, like, I think you guys were both putting in effort, but you were really trying this and trying that. And like every little way you were really trying. So, and I think we get to a point where we've like, okay, maybe I haven't done everything, so I'm going to do everything. And then like we doubt ourselves, right? Because we like
Mhm.
achievement, we want to do the right thing. I want to be able to live with myself. And so you get to this point where you're like, okay, I've literally tried everything. We've talked, we've gone to therapy, I've suggested this, we've tried that, I've done it his way, I've done it my way. Like crossed off all the boxes, and now what? Like it's just not working. So
Right.
And you almost like
Yeah,
need to level with yourself and the person, your partner, like, don't you want to be happy, partner? Like, we need to work together on this too,
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course, if you were to maybe have the same conversation with the other side, they might maybe tell you, well, I did give my best. I did work. I did put in my
Of
effort.
course.
And listen, and of course, in their world, the way they did it, it's true. It's their
Yeah,
truth,
for sure.
But like you said in the conversation, it was just not a match anymore.
Yeah.
Like it just became to a point where really the two people that once met each other, that had all these ideas and dreams together, their dreams changed, their vision changed, ours
Mhm.
changed. It was like, and at one point it was just like it didn't vibrate anymore. Like I feel like for me, I saw my relationship in such a different way than my ex-partner did. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like my aspirations were on a completely different canvas than his. Like we had two different books. I
Yeah.
was like on a topic that he was on a completely different topic, different book, different everything, different,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
tough for sure.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I feel like that acknowledgement only to say really this isn't working was so challenging for me, because what does that really mean right now? Like
Yeah.
that part of your life that was there for such a long time, just like your dad, just like my mom,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's not part of your life anymore. And not because it's gone because of specific reasons, but because
Yeah.
you choose to go.
Yeah.
Which to me, when I decided to separate, I was still, I still feel loved. Like I still felt love at that moment when I decided to separate. So for me, that was even harder, because it wasn't like, oh, the
Yeah.
love went away and I
Yeah.
was, no, I mean, I still, that was really still painful for me emotionally. But I just felt like that mental aspect that I gained with myself, knowing that what I really truly want is really what I also desire. And I'm going to go after that, even if this means I might not be in a relationship again, or I might not be married again, or whatever. I
Yeah.
was ready to take that risk. I was like, okay, I'm a bet on this, man. Like
Yeah.
I go with this because I'm ready for the consequences, and I'm also ready for any other lotus that might come out of that water. So, for me, it was kind of like faith-based thing where I was like, you know what? I have enough faith that he see what I have done and what my heart really is all about. So there has to be another human in this world, my most
Yeah.
compatible soulmate, that will come somehow to me at
Yeah.
whenever time is fit, just like when you found yours, when you find your actual life partner.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you were
Life
meant to be
partner.
from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But again, if you would have not been in that relationship, I truly believe you would have never met your today life partner. Never. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Like it all kind of works out the way it's meant to. It's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah. It's interesting kind of, yeah, uh, you not to like keep bringing it up, but I think we're moving past it finally. But I think you brought something up too about like feeling like you failed. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge sticking point for a lot of people, especially people like, I'm tend to be like a perfectionist at times, and um, I like to do things the right way. Like I said, I like to check all my boxes. I want to make sure I really put in all my effort. And even when I did, I'm questioning myself, like, did I really, like I have high expectations for myself. Um,
Right.
and especially when you're in a relationship for a long time. I mean, we were 9 years, you were 15, like that's a long time. And that's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
life. And, sure, there's plenty of life after that too, but to feel like it's for nothing. I don't know. Not that it was for nothing, because you learn a lot. Obviously, you go through experiences, you have a son from it. Like I have memories from I mean, it wasn't
Right.
all bad, obviously. It wasn't even bad necessarily. It just was what it was. But the
Right.
feeling of failure
Yeah.
is
That's
definitely a big
big.
part of it. Yeah, for
That's really big. Yeah, that's really big. And then, when you combine that failure aspect with the aspect that you might not have enough self-confidence or self-love within you for yourself, then that's a really big hurdle.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I feel like failure is already very painful to receive, or rejection, or knowing that you just messed up, man. You know,
Yeah.
regardless of what the other side did, you also did your part for this to become the way it was. It wasn't just a one-way street. It was, you know, there's two people in the mix. Regardless who did more or less or who initiated it, none of that really matters, because fundamentally you were two in the same boat,
Sure.
right? But not having enough of that, you know what? I can ask for this, and I'm okay to ask for this, because yes, I do deserve it. You know, just saying that part was
Yeah.
so uncomfortable for me. It was so uncomfortable for me. Like I almost felt like I dimmed my light on purpose, not having to look at the truth.
Yeah. Because you're still trying to believe it yourself, I think. And you're like
Right,
saying it, and
right,
you're like, wait, am I? Do I deserve it? Yeah, I do, right?
right.
Right. And you're, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, yeah. But then, okay, so you obviously overcome it for yourself
Yeah.
in your own little ways, and you found your outlets, and you know, bothered yourself with you.
Hmm.
And so now that you are, in a sense, you made it on the other side of the rainbow. When you look back at it, do you feel like there's something like, oh, I should have done this years ago? Or do you feel like this was exactly how it was meant to be? Or is there something where you're like, you know what, this is great for a life experience. I will always remember this, but I'm so glad that I'm on the other side of the rainbow right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think I always I don't know, I think a lot of people do this. You look back and you're like, gosh, I should have known, like even the relationship I mentioned before, this long-term one that was with, not a great one. It was toxic. And I mean, I should have gotten out of that one, sooner than I did. But then at the same time, I think it's all part of the experience too,
Yeah.
because like that relationship led into another one that was wonderful, and then that relationship led me to where I am today. And um would I be in this spot, if it weren't for those? No, like it would just look different, and so
Yeah.
it's all meaningful, it's all relevant. um
Yeah.
I feel like I've become an expert in relationships for sure. I've been in every spectrum of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
definitely it has its meaning.
Yeah, it's all divinely guided in
Mhm.
general, you know. Like I told you at the beginning, like I truly, honestly believe that if you would have not went through those, I don't
Yeah.
think you would have ever met your today life partner. Like it all had a reason. And sometimes I feel like that's the most challenging thing for people to be actually grateful for the pain and the hurt and the heartache and the frustration and the anger that actually that relationship caused, or that person caused to you. Because you know, when I started to look at it from a spiritual point of view, I was like, you know what? Your soul decided in this lifetime to actually offer yourself to me for 15 years to be a
Yeah.
fantastic teacher in so many things. Because honestly, I learned so many great things in this relationship too.
That's a great way to look at it. I love that.
And also the bad things, you know, all the times where I felt neglected and abandoned, and all the times where I felt so empty and so sad and so lonely. Even those, I'm so grateful for it, because if he would have not been that role in my life, I would have never understood how much I'm worth,
Mm,
actually, because I felt so lonely and so many negative emotions, almost to the part where I felt like I was broken,
yeah.
that if that didn't happen to me, I would have never been able to understand now how wonderful I actually am. You know, like how much I really love and respect myself.
Mm,
And so, you know, when I would look at it that way, and I would actually voice it like that too, like thank you. Thank you for all the things that happened, all the pain that I had to endure through you. I'm grateful that you were the person that played that role in my movie, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, because, you know, a lot of times people, when they separate and then they have kids in between, they make it all about the animosity and the negativity and
Oh
this and that
yeah.
and the other. And for me, this was never really an option, just because I don't have anything to do with the karma that is between my son and his dad, but I have certainly something to do with my karma and him. And I
Yeah.
would never interfere in that aspect. You know what I mean? I would be a terrible mom in my eyes. For me, I couldn't see myself doing that. I would feel I'm a bad mom if I take now my hurt and my pain and leave it out in that relationship.
Yeah, for
That,
sure.
you know,
It's hard enough, you know, it's yeah.
right.
And that's just a you know, a reflection of your evolution, because I think there's a lot of people that do that, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but it I know, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that I've never ever done that. You know, obviously I was frustrated. Obviously, I let steam out and all of those things. But, you know, now looking at it, when everything really like kind of like calmed down and everything is sort of, you know, more relaxed than when it was in that beginning phase, to me, he will always be somebody that I will call a fantastic teacher.
Sure.
Bad, good, not good, really ugly, horrible, amazing, like all of it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's, and I look at it with every person in my life, you know, people that are not, that I'm not friends with anymore, that have been part of my life for 20, 22 years, and we're not on speaking terms anymore because
Mm.
we just went separate ways. I feel the same way over there, you know. I'm so grateful that I
Yeah.
had the opportunity to have such relationship with somebody for such a long time. But me evolving and going forward and choosing actually the people that I really want to stay connected to is is really what I'm putting for the forefront for me. You know, that's my own birthright. I get
Yeah.
to choose that, and I get to choose and to create my new circle, my new vibe tribe. And so that's kind of like, you know, once you step into that power of like, yeah, shit, I am the creator. I can
Yeah.
create this for my own life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it does make sense. It starts to feel empowering too, where you're like, okay, you know.
You go into it, yeah, you're saying like consciously create it, and I brought up not really being aware or conscientious of like
Mhm.
what I was looking for in a relationship back then. And like I think, you know, and maybe it's just part of growing up too. I think it is, as cliche as that might sound. I think a lot of it is you look back and you reflect, and you know what you've experienced and gone through, and you take an inventory, and you're like, yeah, this didn't really work out that great. This is, I like this, I'm gonna do more of those, you know. And
Mhm.
you kind of craft your life with the people in it, the things you're doing, you know, the way you want it to be, with a very intentional purpose, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Intentional. That's very good, because sometimes, you know, I also had a very hard time really understanding when people say, "Well, do it intentionally." Okay, I mean, I know I want it. How much more intention can I have? Like, I know I want this. Okay, what do
Yeah.
you, what do
Yeah.
you know, what do you mean do it intentionally? Okay, all I'm telling myself, I know I want this. You know, it was a challenging term for me to really convert into reality of my thought process. You
Mhm.
know, because people say, "What you do it intentionally?" Yeah, I intentionally wanted to be married. I mean, what do you?
Yeah. I'm married,
You
I'm
know,
doing it. Aren't I intentional about
like, right.
Yeah.
You're right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
but I think this is you know, this is really where we are being reminded that we do have a choice, you know. We have a choice in everything. We can choose to stay, we can choose to go, we can choose to change the rules, change out the
change
players,
your
you know,
mind.
did
Yeah.
throw away the rule book even if you want to, you
Yeah.
know. Like you
Right.
totally have that right to do that. And I feel like when we are captured in specific situations for a very long time, and okay, in this conversation, it was a relationship, but it can also go into a workplace, a job, you know, a situationship with somebody, or like, you know,
Sure.
specific incidents in life. Like when we're so captured to stay in it and we become so robotic about certain things, it's really challenging to just take a moment and stop and really just check in with yourself again and be like, hey, is this actually still cool with me? Is this actually really still cool with me? Do I actually really still like that? Or am I doing it out of a routine? you
Mm-hmm.
know, or I'm doing it out of a habit.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I think it's so easy, especially as you get older, you get busy and you have all these different demands, and
Right,
you just kind of go with the flow, but not necessarily in a good way, right? You're just kind of used to it. It's that habit and it's not intentional. It's kind of
right.
like second nature. And um
Hmm.
you find yourself, 10 years later and you're like, where did all that time go?
Yes,
Because you're not
exactly.
you're not living kind of consciously about it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely that. And then a little part of that is also, you know, when we stay in the past and we're remembering and reminiscing, oh my God, we had such a good time and remember everything that had happened and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and the time and the effort I put in, you know, and then also, okay, how is it going to be in the future? You know, how is that going to be?
Yeah.
How is this going to be? Versus really like just, okay, what's happening today? Am I today 100% happy? Am I today 100%, you know, respecting my boundaries and following my own guidelines? Like, am I just doing that today, regardless of how it was or how it's going to be? Because in a sense, I feel like those two are almost like an illusion. And I get it, like the future is created, but I also believe the future is created from now. Like
Yeah.
now, today, I create my future. And if I change my mind today of saying, actually, I don't want a BMW. I want to drive a Mercedes. Yes, I can create
Yeah,
that, you know, like that.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm still working on that for sure. Staying in the
Yeah.
present. That's a big one.
Oh, that's a big
It's
one. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
tough.
Yeah. But I think it's big for everybody. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's
I think
really
so.
big for everybody, you know, to just really, you know, never lose, never lose hope, right? And never lose really what you truly feel in here.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever that might be, whatever you think, whatever you feel inside, it there's a reason why it's there, you know?
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good point. Yeah. To pay attention to
Mhm.
that. It keeps knocking at your door internally.
Right. That
Yeah.
that little voice, the little intuition thingy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. This was so nice. I had such a nice time with you. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
being so open and sharing your own truth.
for
And, you
sure.
know, yeah, this is really, really nice. I really appreciate you as a human being, and I'm so grateful that we met in this lifetime because you're very special to me. And
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait to finally come and visit you.
I know, I know. Likewise. I mean, hey, that's another great thing that came out of that relationship, right? We met each other and um
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy to be here. I'm glad you're still in my life and you know, anytime let's do this again. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was really cool. And for you podcast lovers, like always, if there's anything you would like to share, if there's something on your mind that you think you need to voice, my mic is open. Until then, stay rooted, stay blessed, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.